everyone and welcome back to my channel. We won't be giving a full introduction today as we have quite intensive testing ahead of us. In this video, we will compare 3 different sets of acrylic markers from Ohuhu and see which one works best. First, we will take a look at a set of 24 acrylic markers from the Nahoku series. Even from the packaging, it's clear that Ohuhu focuses on both the quality of the products and their presentation. Rather than a standard card box, we have a black fabric pencil case, which is practical and durable and ideal for storing markers every day. The pencil case features a white print of the brand's official mascot, a chameleon, which is a very distinctive element of their visual identity. The whole thing is also packed in a cardboard sleeve on which the brand has placed a preview of the colors included in the set. This is a very convenient solution, especially if you want to know straight away what color palette you will be working with. Nevertheless, we will make our own swatch card later to see what the colors actually look like. This set also includes a user guide and color sample cards, which are a very useful addition if you like to keep your colors organized and easily accessible for comparison. These acrylic markers don't require any special activation. There is no need to press the tip, simply shake the marker well to mix the ink before use. This is a significant advantage, especially if you dislike markers that require time-consuming preparation. So let's move on to making our own color swatch card, as this is the best way to evaluate the quality of markers properly. Since acrylic markers are very opaque, Ohuhu has included a black paper swatch card. This enables us to see how the colors behave on a dark background and how pigmented they are for ourselves. I think this is a really great, thoughtful solution. As you can see, the colors are really beautiful. Most of them are delicate pastels, which I really like. It's definitely a set where you can easily choose the right shades for coloring the character's skin, which isn't always obvious with acrylic markers. When making the color chart, I had a minor problem with only one green marker. At first, the ink didn't flow as it should. Fortunately, all I had to do was shake it a little longer for the ink to mix well and the marker started working normally. The markers have a brush tip, which makes them very comfortable to use. They allow for both delicate, thin lines and quick filling of larger areas. And as you can see on the black sample sheet, the colors are really opaque, which only confirms that this is a very solid set of acrylic markers. Now let's move on to another set of acrylic markers. This time we are dealing with a larger set containing an impressive 36 colors. As far as I know, this series comes in several variants with different tip types: fine, dot, and brush. Our set includes both a fine tip and a dot tip, making it an appealing option for those who enjoy precise work and decorative details. The packaging is completely different from that of the previous set. The markers are now packed in a sturdy cardboard box with a color preview on the sleeve. This makes it easy to see the full color palette at a glance, which is very convenient. When you open the box, you will find swatch cards on both white and black paper, which allow you to see immediately how the colors look against different backgrounds. The markers are also arranged in 2 trays, which makes the whole set very organized. At first glance, you will see that the range of colors is truly impressive. I know myself well enough to say right away that I will most often use the fine tip. My drawings contain lots of details, thin lines and small elements, so a precise tip like this works best for me. It's also worth mentioning that the markers in this set require absolutely no preparation. They are ready to use straight out of the box. I didn't have to shake or activate them in any way, which is a big plus. I must admit that I fell in love with this set the first time I used it to make a color swatch. The markers are a pleasure to use, gliding smoothly to give you great control over the line. What's more, the colors are simply beautiful. A real treat for the eyes, really. The only thing I personally miss are warmer shades for coloring skin. Although the set includes cherry pink, it's color number 12, I find it rather dull and not very saturated, giving the impression of being a cool shade. I feel that when used to color skin, it would make the character, look unhealthy. In this respect, the previous set is definitely better. However, I must say that the markers are highly pigmented and the ink quality is excellent. This is a set that will certainly work well for detailed illustrations and decorative elements or anywhere else where precision is important. Now, let me introduce the final set of acrylic markers, which looks very promising and impressive from the first glance. Even the packaging makes it clear that these are different from the previous sets. Once again, it's a pencil case, but this time it's much larger and heavier than the previous ones, which may come as a surprise given that this set contains only 24 colors. As with the previous set, there are 2 types of tip, fine and broad. Initially, I thought these were double-ended markers with both tips on opposite sides of a single marker. However, upon opening the pencil case, I discovered that the design of this set is completely different. Inside, the markers are divided into 2 groups. The fine tip markers are significantly smaller and are at the top. Below them are the broad tip markers, which are much larger. I mean it, the broad tip is huge and immediately catches the eye. The pencil case also contains instructions for use and a section of frequently asked questions, as well as the standard swatch cards that allow you to test the colors right away. Of all 3 sets, this one definitely requires the most preparation. Before making the color swatch, I took a clean plain sheet of paper to activate the markers calmly and avoid any ink spills. These markers need to be shaken and then pressed onto the paper until the tip is filled with color. I prepared 2 separate color swatches, one with a fine tip and one with a broad tip. I must admit that the fine tip really surprised me. It's probably the most precise acrylic marker tip I have ever seen. It feels almost plastic, very hard and extremely stable, which gives you a great control over the line. I was really pleasantly surprised when testing it. The colors look absolutely amazing. Furthermore, this is the only set in today's episode to include gold and silver colors. These shades are great for details, decorations, and accents, so this is a huge plus. I love using them myself to add variety to my work and create a sparkly effect. However, I did notice one thing. After the markers had dried, delicate cracks and crumbling it appeared on the swatch cards. At first, I was a little alarmed, but I quickly realized that the markers had simply been activated and there was too much ink on the cards. Once it had stabilized, the effect looked much better. In summary, although this set requires a little more patience and preparation, the results are impressive. It's different and more technical, but it also offers enormous possibilities, especially if you care about precision, strong coverage, and impressive details. So let's get started! I created the sketch for this drawing on my computer first and then transferred it to my favorite sketchbook. If you regularly watch my channel, you will have seen this sketchbook appear here many times. Incidentally, this sketchbook was purchased for a completely different purpose to the one I ultimately use it for. It was intended for casual sketching, practicing, and testing materials, and most importantly, not worrying about making mistakes. This was my way of overcoming my perfectionism. At first, it worked really well. I drew freely and tested different techniques and tools without any pressure or expectations. Unfortunately, over time, my perfectionism came back and won. I started creating increasingly refined, time-consuming, and demanding works in the sketchbook, completely forgetting my original intention. Despite everything, I love this sketchbook, and I must admit that all the pieces of work created in it are a feast for the eyes. I especially like the contrast between loose sketches and very detailed illustrations. The result is an incredible, satisfying visual effect. Turning to the drawing itself, this time I decided to draw 3 of my main characters. If you regularly watch my channel, you will already be familiar with 2 of them. Today's video introduces another character, green-haired Damezi, a friend of the main character, the blue-haired Ines with rabbit ears. I created this character many years ago, but to this day, I still don't have a fully formed idea of who she is. As you know from watching my videos, I have a big problem with creating stories and plots for my characters. I create characters very intuitively and visually, and their personalities and stories often remain open. Perhaps they will become clearer someday, or maybe that's what makes them so charming. Returning to the acrylic markers themselves, all 3 of the sets tested today have one feature in common. They are waterproof, durable, and light-fast, making them ideal for use on paper and many other surfaces. They can be used to decorate items such as stones, Easter eggs, wood, glass, and ceramics. The only limitations are our imagination and the ideas we want to create. Have you ever used acrylic markers on surfaces other than paper? Let me know in the comments, as I'm very curious to hear about your experiences. I must admit that I tend to use paper. However, now that you mention it, I remember making quite an exception. I once decorated my mom's t-shirt with acrylic markers. The colors faded slightly after washing, but everything is still very visible and the t-shirt still looks great. Perhaps I should experiment with other surfaces more often, especially since this marker offers so many possibilities. First and foremost, I would like to thank Ohuhu from the bottom of my heart for this collaboration. I am extremely grateful for the trust they have placed in me and for the opportunity to test so many fantastic products. Special thanks are also due for the enormous patience shown during both the collaboration process and the video's release timeline. Preparing this material took much longer than expected, so I am very grateful for the brand's understanding and calm approach. I would also like to mention that Ohuhu agreed to collaborate even though I only responded to their proposal several months later. This demonstrates not only professionalism but also great respect for creators and their individual work pace. This isn't something that can be taken for granted, and I am very grateful for it. This collaboration was an extremely positive experience and a great pleasure for me. Thank you for your openness, understanding, and for giving me the opportunity to create in harmony with myself. I sincerely hope that this is not our last collaboration, as I loved your products. I wish your brand continued growth. In summary, each of the tested acrylic marker sets has its own unique features and clearly differs from the others. The first set stands out due to its practical and aesthetically pleasing pencil case packaging, as well as its soft brush tip, which provides excellent control over color application. The palette is delicate and pastel, making it ideal for character illustrations. The markers are highly opaque, as can be seen on black paper, and are ready to use almost immediately, just shake them well. The second set is impressive primarily due to its huge range of colors and excellent pigmentation. In terms of color palette, it's the most versatile set, although it lacks warmer tones for skin. The thin tip is ideal for detailed drawings, and the markers themselves are extremely comfortable to use, requiring no preparation. Despite having only 24 colors, the last set makes a huge impression with its form and design. The thin tip of the markers is extremely precise, one of the most accurate I have ever used, and the thicker tip allows for the quick and effective filling of large areas. This is the only set in today's test that includes metallic colors, gold and silver. These offer enormous decorative potential. Although it requires the most preparation, it offers very strong, effective colors and great creative potential. Markers are markers, but if you've been watching my channel for a while, you will know that my videos are about more than just reviewing art supplies. As well as tests, color samples, and technical details, I also share snippets of my life, my daily thoughts, and what's currently going on in my head. This element is what makes my content so personal and authentic. I don't want to create dry reviews. I want these videos to be a space for conversation and reflection. For me, drawing and testing new materials isn't just a hobby or a job. It's also a form of therapy and a way to organize my thoughts and emotions. I feel that it's this combination of art and life, creativity, and everyday existence that defines my work on this channel. I don't yet know exactly when this video will appear on my channel. However, I have decided that I would like to create a reserve of videos and start publishing more regularly rather than uploading new material once every few months. My dream is to return to the rhythm I had at the very beginning of this channel, one video a week or every 2 weeks. This pace is much healthier and calmer for me and gives me more time to create without feeling under pressure. If you are watching this video, it's likely that I have built up a small stash of videos and have returned to a regular schedule. In that case, get ready for increased activity on my channel. More videos, more drawing, material tests, and my artistic and life reflections. I really hope you will here with me. While editing this film, I would like to share something very important that recently happened to us and deeply moved me. Christmas was approaching. My fiancé and I were in a really good mood. We were choosing our first Christmas tree and decorations together, and everything was peaceful. We bought everything we needed and also met a friend at a restaurant. In the evening, we were returning home, tired but happy. On the way, right outside our block of flats, we met our neighbors who had found a cat. Actually, the cat had found them because it had just run into their car. It was freezing cold, starving, and clearly in need of help. Our neighbor showed it to us and let me hold the cat, immediately starting to persuade us to take it in. My fiancé and I thought about it for a long time. Our apartment is completely unsuitable for a cat and we are not in a great financial position either. I was quietly hoping that my fiancé would say no, but he was waiting for me to make up my mind. Our neighbor didn't want to take it in because she already has a dog and 2 cats. Ultimately, I decided that we would take the cat in temporarily and try to find its owner. My neighbor assured me that if things became too difficult, she would take him off our hands as long as he didn't end up back on the street. We took him to the vet, who estimated that he was around 4 years old. He was emaciated but incredibly friendly and clearly loved people. We thought he might have run away, but nobody came forward to claim him and he didn't have a microchip. With the help of the charity, he was dewormed and neutered. During this time, we wanted to get to know him as well as possible, his character, behavior, and habits, so that we could describe him accurately to future owners should the need arise. We really considered keeping him for a moment, but unfortunately we had to be honest with ourselves. Food and litter are one thing, but we wouldn't be able to cope financially if he suddenly fell ill. It was a very difficult and painful decision. We tried, to find him a home ourselves, but without success. A month passed, the kitten was still with us, and our budget was getting tighter. Finally, we asked our neighbor for help, the same neighbor who had previously urged us to take the kitten in, assuring us that she would help if necessary. Then something happened that we didn't expect at all. We were scolded from top to the bottom. We were told that we had kept the cat for a month and now wanted to get rid of him. A lot of unpleasant things were said. We were in total shock. Rather than getting into an argument, we decided to continue doing what we were doing, looking for the best possible home for the cat. Then a small miracle happened. Just before Christmas, with the help of my fiance's mother, we found him a wonderful indoor home with one of her coworkers. He really couldn't have found a better place. You might say that we were given the opportunity to give him the perfect Christmas present. I still miss him to this day. He left a huge void behind, but I regularly receive photos of him, which reassures me that he is safe and well, and that's what's matters most to me. That's all for today's video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. See you soon, bye!